Hi everyone, hope everyone's alright. I'm just creating this video to explain how to disassemble the crankcase halves of the water-cooled 900 Triumph engine. It's a twin engine, so in this video I'll be explaining that. But also, before I dive into that, I would like to just go through some of the tools that I'm using to take the engine apart. So first of all, you'll notice that I've got the Haynes manual. Really good manuals, very informative. They can get a bit tedious, flicking back and forth through the pages. Sometimes you can sort of lose where you are or where you need to be, but other than that, they're a very good reference point to start from. And I think every vehicle that I've worked on, I've definitely bought the manual, because for $17.99, it's just that insight prior to starting any job. Right, second tool is an adjustable wrench. This is a large one. So basically this sort of, I'm going to say, you can take most of the bike apart, or most of the components off the frame, so to speak, with a 1/4 inch drive socket set. So you know, if you're on the side of the road, I'd probably take one of these with me, just if you need to undo the rear wheel spindle nut, for example, or even the front sprocket nut. So yeah, adjustable wrench, nice little tool to have. Second one, grips. Taking the engine out the frame, I'm going to run through that in a bit more detail, but disconnection of the hose pipes, the water cooling line pipes, so they're good to get the clips off. Thirdly, a screwdriver, small flat-bedded screwdriver, good for the electrical terminations. They usually just clip in, just to get the clip in and pull the electrical plugs and sockets apart. So one of those definitely needed. You'll need a set of Allen keys. Don't matter make or brand, it's just up to you. But yeah, just a selection of Allen keys, pretty much from, you'll rarely use the 10, but definitely 8 down to possibly 3 you will most likely use. Right, next tools on the list is the Torx key set. Triumph like to be slightly awkward. But I mean, it's common practice in any sort of vehicle manufacturer on cars and stuff. You'll see Torx screws, etc. Kicking about, so they're always handy to have a set. Now, I have got some Torx bits in the 1/4 inch drive socket set I've got, but obviously you will notice that the T30 is missing, and I think the T30 is the one that generally comes up on the bike that you need to take off. So you know, that's ironic, isn't it, on my behalf, but I'm sure I'll get a little replacement from somewhere. Just going on to that then, so 1/4 inch drive socket set, up to you what size socket set you use. I just like this one because it's quite a decent set. It's small, compact, quite light. It's Barco. It's all just in its nice little case, so it's not really that big to carry around and do the repairs. And like I say, you know, you can take most of the components off the bike with just one of these. For the bigger components, such as the crankcase bolts, I believe it's an M10 that they've used. There's 8 of them to take out. I just found I needed something a little bit bigger, so there's a 1/2 inch drive socket set there. Oil filter removal tool. You probably won't fit one like this under the Triumph engine, but I used this one when the engine was out. I did it the other way up though, but yeah, it was quite easy to get to once everything was out. So yeah, oil filter removal tool, wrench or socket or whatever you've got. Definitely need one of them. You'll need also a long socket bar. and that is mainly for the over tighten nuts, or not over tighten, but the high torque application nuts. So the stator centre bolt is torqued to 120 Newton meters, so you'll need a long bar for that. To be fair, I found that quite easy to remove in comparison to the clutch bolt, which was on this side, and it goes onto that spindle there. That's torqued up to 40 Newton meters, but you know, managed to get that off with a bit of trouble, which I'll mention briefly in a minute. The other tool is a holding tool. So this was about £30, but I basically had some trouble with the clutch housing, and I tried to hold it in a way which wouldn't necessarily be approved, and I ended up costing myself more money because I messed up my clutch basket. So a holding tool definitely needed. Now this isn't the one for the clutch basket. There is an EBC one for about £18, which it will save you money if you end up breaking your clutch basket, so I would definitely recommend buying it, and I'm going to buy one myself when I do the reassembly of the clutch. But this holding tool I bought specifically for the stator rotor, or the timing rotor. So, you know, really nice piece of kit, just a rubber belt. You can get leather ones, they do steel ones as well, but it does mention to not damage these timing notches on the exterior, so something rubber or leather is ideal. But that just literally slips on there, tighten it up, and then you can hold it in place while you undo that. That's an M10. So again, with a long socket bar, I used the socket adapter for the Allen bolt, and that were quite easy. Just on that, you will need 100%. This is £20. It is the Triumph alternator or stator removal tool, and it's basically threaded on the inside. That will screw over. You'll take that nut, that bolt and washer out. Sorry, that'll screw over onto the rotor, and then it will pull away. I did look at possibly using the hooked pullers, getting behind the rotor, but it's chamfered on the back and it does go in, so getting the hooks in and around is near enough impossible, and then to get it to hold on the back, again, pretty much impossible, and you're going to run the risk of damaging these notches, which it's just not worth it. Spend the £20, get the right tool, and you should find it easy. Next tool, magnetic holding tool. Up to you if you want to buy one of these. They're relatively cheap. I've not used it during this disassembly, but I know they are very handy to have knocking about, so it's just if you want one really, but yeah, it's always good to have in the toolkit. Then for reassembly, you're going to need torque wrenches. You can either try and find one that goes from 10 Newton meters all the way up to the 120 for the centre bolt for the stator rotor, but I've ended up with two, so I've ended up with a low end torque wrench and something that goes up a lot higher, up to 210 on that one. But yeah, definitely torque wrenches, you're going to need them, so worth investing in. And the final tool, which it's up to you if you think it's necessary or not. You might be able to do it by eye if you're that confident, but for, I think that was about £6, is a torque wrench angle disc. So there's a couple of bolts that need tightening 90 degrees. I can't remember if it's a secondary or a primary 90 degrees, but yeah, definitely worth getting it if it's cheap. So yep, so they're the tools that I've used or will be using on the disassembly and reassembly of the Triumph 900 T100 engine, the water-cooled one. Just a few notes before starting on the engine works. Just a couple of pointers on things that you will need to disconnect prior to taking the engine out of the bike. There is another tool which you can either fabricate yourself or you can try and buy, but I've not managed to locate a suitable tool yet, but I'll go into that in a minute. But the basic sort of principle of taking components off the bike to get the engine out, there's nothing too complicated here, so just don't overthink it. There's just work methodically, work in a way that suits you. I've used boxes to separate the parts out as I've been taking them off, but you'll just need to take your exhausts off. You'll need to disconnect your O2 sensors, which will go up to this plate here. You'll also need to disconnect your radiator fan and the horns there. There's two cradles, two arms that come across. They will need to be taken off completely, and anything mounted to them, so engine dresser bars, you might get away with not taking the dresser bars off those, but I've just taken them off completely. So that's those. You'll get down to this area here. The sprocket cover will need to come off. Behind the sprocket cover is the rear brake. I've not bled the brakes. I've not drained any fluid or anything like that. So I've literally just taken these two bolts out here and sort of moved the assembly round to get into what I needed to do for the sprocket. There is a mention in the Haynes manual that you do need to loosen the swing arm bolt, but I didn't find it necessary personally, so again, it's your call on that. If you're doing a lot of service work at the back at the same time, you might have the rear wheel out, you might want to take the suspension off, etc. So entirely up to you. I've taken the airbox out, but you don't need to take the airbox out. Around this area you've got all the electricals, so you've got the stator winding connector and you've got the stator timing connector. You've also got a gear position sensor connector. So all those three will be connected here, and they are routed around and then go down the side of the engine to the stator and the gear position sensor, which is located near the sprocket. So what I would recommend, I had the stator off first and had it sort of dangling, but I probably would recommend just leaving the stator cover on, disconnecting the wires, routing the wires out, and then dropping the engine, and you can take the stator cover off whilst it's in an engine frame. So that's pretty much that side of the bike. The injectors I've left on, didn't really want to touch them as much as I could. I've just bagged them up. Just make sure you bag anything like that up, so the fuel inlet, the outlets, again, it's all about just protecting it really. You'll need to disconnect your spark plug caps. Easy enough, just pop them off. You can leave them dangling, that's fine. The coolant return line and the filler cap is located here, so you will need to remove the coolant line, so that needs to come out, but it's all really simple stuff. What I tend to do, just as a habit, if there's any bolts in the frame, if I can leave the bolts in, so I've got a reference as to where they go, just so I'm not carting about loads of bags of bolts and then trying to remember what's this bag for, or it says this but I'm a bolt miss it, or I've got a bolt to put in and I don't know where it goes. So just any nuts and bolts that sort of go into the frame, I will generally leave in, just so that I know what they are. When I come to fit the part, it'll get in the way and I'll go, right, okay, that needs fitting, so I'll take them out and put it back on. Right, down the left hand side of the bike, another ignition cap, easy enough. Clutch cable, that'll come down, so that just needs disconnecting. It's an easy job to do. There is a couple of clips which the clutch cable and the sorry, I tell a lie. There are a couple of clips which the horn and the radiator fan connector they clip into one of the engine cradle brackets, so you'll just need to get a screwdriver into one side of them and pop them out. You'll need to disconnect, I believe, to take the fuel tank off, you'll need to disconnect the evap line. There's an evap line that comes out the fuel tank, and then that goes down here to a little canister, so you'll need to disconnect that. That'll come away with the fuel tank then. There's a fuel tank connectors on the right hand side. Basically what you do with the fuel tank is you remove the mounting bolt. You can just lift the tank up because it just slides onto these two rubber mountings. You can lift the fuel tank up and then get down to the right hand side of the bike to then disconnect those. The intake will need to come off. I did leave it in place until I took the airbox off, so you can actually remove the engine with the intake. Sorry, the can't even think. The brain farts. It's the intake, isn't it? I don't know. Can't remember. Someone will put in the comment section what it is. But yeah, so you can leave all that on up to the airbox. But there's 3 bolts each intake to remove, and the injector bolts as well to remove. So that's that. Other than that, it's pretty much it. There's nothing special required really about what you have to remove. Right, whilst I'm on it, the tool that you'll need, once you've taken the engine mounting bolts out, the engine may, if you're unlucky, stay in place, and that's because they've got these flat-headed sort of like threads within the frame itself, and you can see how that twists there. So that'll come out of this side of the frame, and basically these mountings clamp the engine mounting points in place, and there's 4 of them I believe. There's one here, one in the mid rear and one in the lower, and basically these clamp the engine in place. So you'll need like a flat tool. It's about 4.5mm deep and about 8.5mm wide. Now I am looking for something to get that will adapt to a socket set, but you might just be able to make your own tool like I did very crudely to loosen these off. Generally it's when you get to the last bolt, that's when because the engine's wanting to go against, it's wanting to move, so it's putting pressure on the thread, so it just makes the last one a bit harder to get out. Once you've done all them, you can drop the engine, slide it out, whichever way is best. I came out this way obviously because I'd left the brake in line intact. So yeah, once you've got it out, slide it away, get it mounted in a frame, and then you can remove all the covers, remove all the internals, etc. You know, at your leisure and at ease. Now I'd already removed the clutch whilst the engine was in the bike. Now I'm going to refer you to a video online. If you look up on the triumphrat.net website on the forum, there's a user called Singlin, Singlin, and he's done a very comprehensive and informative video to remove the clutch basket, and it was to replace the pivot plate which engages this detent wheel here, because it's related to a downshift issue. So he can show you how to remove all that. It's fairly simple, but like I say, I would 100% recommend getting the clutch basket holding tool, because unfortunately I broke mine. So £20 or whatever the price is on eBay, it's your choice. So yep, that's that. I'll start getting into the disassembly now. Just a couple of additional notes on the engine removal. On the left hand side of the engine there is a ground connection which is held in with an M6 bolt with an 8mm socket head. You will also need to remove the side stand switch to remove the engine cradle arm on the left hand side. So you'll need to disconnect that and route the wiring down to the cradle arm, and that should be about it. Also, there is a video for the tech car installation which will show you in a bit more depth how to remove the fuel tank and the fuel connectors, also the petrol hose which connects onto the fuel rail. I've already done the holding and untightening. It is loose, but just as a visual example, 10mm hex into the bolt, holding tool in place. Helps if you do that first. I think, yeah, it wants to be that way. So the holding tool goes that way, tighten it up, pressure is applied down clockwise, M10 or 10mm hex in there, and then obviously, say you're here, hold that in position and undo the bolt anti-clockwise. Jobs are good. Right then, next. So this is a specialist tool that we're talking about, £20. I don't think you're going to be able to do it any other way. If you can, then you know what, good on you. But I would personally rather not take the risks. Now it does say to protect the threads, you know, put something in here, but because of the width, I'll just show you. Because of the width of this bolt, I don't think you won't need to use anything. But again, it's your choice. You could just pack a washer in there or something if you're bothered about damaging the surface. So I'll get that on. Okay. You need a bigger desk. You know what's going to happen here, don't you? That socket will be one that I need. Oh no, I'm lucky. There we go. Seems to be going in quite a way. I don't know if I need to pack it out with something after all. I'll give it a go. pulled quite nicely, that looks of it. Beautiful. Right, you hear that drop then? That will be woodruff key there. That's the rotor off. The reason why you advise to take the rotor off, it's entirely up to you, but I do think you'll need to do it. So the Haynes manual states that you'll need the locking key, which is accessible there for the crank, but you'll also need a locking key for, I believe it's the balance shaft gear, and it's basically to check the adjustment of the balance shaft and the primary gear. So I'll get into that later. I do need to do a little bit more reading on it, but I'm certain that you'll have to take the rotor off to get to 100% to get to that one anyway. So yep, I'll discuss that more later. Right then, so once that's off, clutch cover can come off. The bolts are different sizes on the clutch cover. As I mentioned before, the video on the basket removal is available online, but I just used a piece of card like this to show me where all the bolts go, so I know that they're all going to go back in their original positions. Bonneville logo, there's one directly underneath that, so it's just a good reference point. Not trying to sell you out of suck eggs, everyone works differently, but found that worked for me. All the bolts on the stator cover are the same size, so nothing to worry about there, they can just get bagged up. The next one to do is the sump. So all the M6 with a 8mm head bolt, all these bolts are the same size, so I've loosened all these off already, and I'm just going to take them all out and bag them up. If some of you are wondering why I'm not using an impact driver or electronic drill, if you want to use them, it's your choice. I just tend to find that you can feel the thread and the bolt, how it's interacting a lot better. You get a lot more feedback, and I've done it in the past. I've used impact drivers, whether it be taking bolts out or mostly putting them in. If you don't get it sat right, then you will just strip the thread and it'll go wrong very quickly. But I just like that feedback that you get just when you're taking the bolts out or putting them in, just so you know that it's going to be seated right and you're not stripping the threads. I don't think these bolts have to come out in any particular order. It might be a wise thing to do though, just to undo them, or like take the tightness off each one, just by like half a turn or whatever it is. Go around it half a turn each, and then once you've got them all loose, then take them all out. Right then, so all the bolts out, oil sump should just come away nicely. Just be careful you don't take it all the way off one way, because there's a drain hole with an interconnecting hose for the coolant. So that's your coolant drain, is that. Okay, gasket off. One use gasket, just dispose of it. Right then, next part to remove. You can leave this hose in if you want. I think I took it out originally, so that's that. There is a couple of O-rings still in there. They double up on the O-rings, so if you are going to order the O-rings, which I have done, I've ordered them from Triumph, which some of you will probably be screaming, "Idiot, you're paying too much." But I just wanted to make sure all the O-rings were the correct specification, so I've ordered about 20 O-rings with different product codes from Triumph, but these come in 4s. So yeah, so I'll be replacing all of them, but yeah, there's 2 stuck in there, so just remember to take them all out. Right, the next part to remove, the oil pump and the water pump. They run off the same chain, combined unit. There's 3 bolts holding this in, so again, nothing special. M6 with an M8 or 8mm hex head. So that should, with a little bit of wiggling, it should just pop out. There we go. Next part to remove is the coolant return line. Just to clarify, it is not the coolant return line, it is the oil return line. Also, the oil pump got cut short a bit because I was waffling on, but just make sure that you've taken all the O-rings away from the pump. They'll all need replacing, all the visible O-rings, so it's just a note on that. Again, bolt's already loose. This is, I think it's a 5mm hex. Can't tell anyway, it's all rubbed off now, but that's a 6, yeah, it's 5. Yep, 5mm hex. Okay, the only reason why I'm removing this is obviously because if you lay the sump down, it's not worth bending the part. I don't think these are that much, but there's no point buying parts if you don't have to. And as you can see, the O-ring on that, it's got stuck in the in there. Let's put that in with the oil pump here. Right then, so now we are into the stage of removing the crankcase half bolts. Now there is, I believe it's 9 M6 with an 8mm hex cap. There are 5 M8s with, is it a 12mm? Let's double check. Yep, with a 12mm cap. And then there are 8 M10s with a 14mm cap. Now the M6s have no ordering to them, so you can take them out as you want, but what it does say is that you loosen each M6 or each bolt in a 90-degree motion. So when you're first starting out, 90 degrees, next one 90 degrees, next one 90 degrees. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Did I say 9? 10. 11. I think that's right, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there's 11 of those. So yeah, so 90 degrees, and just go all the way around 90 degrees, and then once you've loosened them off, then they can be removed completely. So I'll do that now. Okay, so you'll notice that the internal M6 is longer, so just make a note of that. I don't know how many millimeters it is, but yeah, just make a note that it is longer. The rest of them should be the same size. Might be a good idea to take the coolant return line off. I couldn't be bothered personally, but it just makes it a little bit trickier to get in there with the socket. Could use a spanner. Because the bar on this one's a bit flexible, it will just slip past, so nothing really too detrimental. You can take the bolt out as well, and you can get it seated as well, so it's up to you on that one. I didn't find it too much of a pain, but on the off chance you might be unlucky and you might end up stripping the bolt head, so for the sake of an O-ring, it could be worth just taking that coolant return line out. I will get the Haynes manual out now. Just going to clear some of these tools away because we really don't need the torque wrenches yet. Definitely don't need them at the minute. Right, this just a quick note on this, on the rotor centre bolt. This is a one-use only bolt. It's tightened up to 120 Newton meters of torque in two phases. So I think the first one's 80 or 90, and then you crank it up to 120. So just bin it. You don't need it. I think you should be able to reuse the washer. I've ordered another one, so I'm just binning mine. Okay, so taking your M6s out actually tells you in here, so 8 M10s, 5 M8s and 11 M6s. Yeah, so it is 11, so I've taken all them out. So the M8s are the next ones to go, and it does matter which way you take them out. So I believe it's reverse. Let me just read. Sometimes struggle to read. Next, unscrew the M8 bolts a quarter turn at a time in a reverse of the bolt numbering sequence. So they are numbered 13 to 9. So 13 is in the uppermost left corner there. Apologies in advance, I have missed out a bolt and I will leave the footage in. I do correct myself later, but it's just a forewarning that I have missed out bolt 10. So the 10th bolt is in the uppermost right hand corner as you are looking at the video now. "13, 12, 11, 9. 13, 12, 11, 9. So just for the purpose of the video, I will do the 90-degree turn. Okay, once they're loosened off, just take them out. This is where the little magnetic stick can come in handy, especially down in these corners, just if you can't get your fingers in. To be fair, they do come out quite a way, so right. These are different lengths, as you'll notice, because obviously that bolt there is stepped up further from that one, so just take into account that they are different lengths. I'm missing something here. Someone will be screaming at me now saying, "You've put it there, it's like pantomime." There's only 4 in there. I told you I'm just an everyday idiot. What have I done with that? Honestly. Nope, it's gone. Anyway, I'll come back to that. Right, so next you'll need 14mm, which is there, and we need an extension bar. No, should be okay. Okay, so these bolts are in number sequence, so you will need to go backwards. I'll just read the text out. Finally, unscrew the M10 bolts a quarter turn at a time in reverse of the bolt numbering sequence, i.e. from 8 to 1. Then remove them with their washers. Yep, so just remember these M10s have got washers on, so you will need to remove the washers. So number sequence 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 8 is this one here. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, 90-degree turn. Now obviously, because these are torqued up, you might just want to go around with the 90-degree turn a couple of times just to get them totally loose. I believe that's what I did on the first time. Still looking for that bolt. Can't see where it's gone. Oh, it's there. Not even loosened it off. What a numbnuts. So apologies to everyone on that one. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. So it's just a zigzag. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. You're missing one. Right then, so back onto the main M10s. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 90-degree turns until you've loosened all of them evenly, and again just go around with the 90-degree turn again if they're not completely loosened off. Okay, lovely. So that's all the M10s, 8 of. So that's all the bolts out. Just have a quick once over, make sure you've taken all the bolts out. So like I say, 11 M6s, doesn't matter which order you take those out. Or loosen off, shall I say. 5 M8s, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of the M6s is in the housing there, and then 8 M10s. Easy enough. Right then, next job, separate the crankcase halves. Just be very gentle. Well, I say be very gentle. It does say in the Haynes manual they should just separate by lifting off. Now that wasn't the case, and don't matter what any Haynes manual says about separating things, they always seem harder than what they describe. So I had a rubber hammer, a piece of wood, and I used that area there and tapped the back to lift the half off. So before taking the halves off as well, just check that the bike or the transmission is in neutral. Okay, so it's that little divot there, and that's your detent arm. So I've left the detent arm in, and that just tells me that it's in neutral. It's a different position from all the rest of them, you will notice. So it's in neutral now, is that? And I believe that's just so then the forks that engage with the transmission, they separate nicely. So right, let's give this a go. Let's hope it's easier than last time. There we go, lovely. Oh. Okay, so what's happened here is that the whole transmission has come with the crankcase half, so I'll just very gently bring it over that way. I'll show you that. There's also something that dropped as well, by the sounds of it. Definitely something that drops there, so it could have just been that washer. But I will double check to see exactly what that was. Right then, so the reason for my video is to remove the transmission, and I want to put a 6-speed box in. Now I have already had the transmission apart, and the 6-speed does actually fit, so I will continue the video with the 6-speed installation and get it all sealed back up. But basically, once you've got the halves separated Give everything a good clean round. I'm going to use acetone. I'm going to give all these surfaces a really good wipe. Get any rubber gasket maker material that they've used, you can see there. Just get all of that off as best you can. Don't use, I definitely wouldn't use a standard knife or anything like that here. Just, you know, be really patient with it, because if you're not, then you're gonna potentially have oil leaks. So yeah, so that's it. That's the separation of the halves. Like I say, the transmission will usually stay in this position here, and it should. It was a bit stiff on the first run to lift out, so you know it might take a little bit of wiggling. Also, there is here a bearing holding plate, so there's two M6 bolts. I believe they're Allen bolts, but they were quite hard to get out, so I do think that they were thread locked as well. And it's just got a plate that sits in front of the bearing, and it holds that in place. So I took that out to get the transmission out. And that's it. Any questions, give us a comment. And other than that, yeah, good luck.